So the first part of your assignment in 4.6 will be to evaluate these inverse trig functions. These should be things that you have already practiced, that you should already have memorized, because what this is looking for is you have the sine of some angle is equal to 1/2. Now, this particular item would have infinitely many answers, but you are going to go within the restricted domains and ranges of the sine, cosine, and tangent functions, okay? And in this text, they don't typically do secant, cosecant, and cotangent. They stick strictly with sine, cosine, and tangent and have you practice those, but it's the same thing. So once you know those values, once you go through, it's not going to be any different. So where is the sine 1/2 is what this is asking. Well, at 30 degrees or at pi/6. If the directions don't specify and you write your answers in degrees, as long as you put the degree mark, it's okay. So if somebody said 30 degrees, I would accept that if the directions didn't specify otherwise. So where is the sine equal to negative square root of 2/2? So the first thing I ask you is, where is the sine square root of 2/2? Well, at 45 degrees. But it's negative, so it's going to be at a negative 45 degrees or a negative pi/4. Inverse sine. Where is the sine equal to 3? Well, sine can only be values between 1 and -1. So if they're asking where is the sine equal to 3, it doesn't exist. It's not in the domain. So if we go back and we look at that chart again, inverse sine, the domain, can only be from -1 to 1. And this is asking me to take the inverse sine of 3, and so it doesn't exist. Where is the sine square root of 3/2? So it's positive, so it'd be in quadrant 1. Square root of 3/2 is going to be pi/3 or 60 degrees. Where is the sine equal to a -2 pi? Again, this is outside of our domain. Our domain for inverse sine is only from -1 to 1, so this does not exist. Where is the sine equal to -1? Now, some of you might be tempted to say 270 degrees or 3 pi/2. You are not wrong, but this is not the way that we write it for these problems. For inverse sine, we go for our range, for our answer, it's going to be from negative pi/2 to pi/2. So negative pi/2 or a negative 90 degrees. If you put 270, I'd probably still accept it for these problems because they are equivalent answers. But because we're trying to get the idea across that you have to restrict yourself to that domain and range, we're going to stick with the correct answers that are 100% correct. So here are some cosine problems. Where is the cosine negative square root of 2/2? So I start, where is cosine square root of 2/2? 45 degrees or pi/4. But it's negative, so that puts us in quadrant 2. So this is going to be 3 pi/4 or 135 degrees. Where is the cosine -2? Once again, cosine only ends up being between -1 and 1. So if you're asked to take the inverse cosine of anything outside of that domain, it doesn't exist. Where is the cosine 0? The cosine is 0 at pi/2 or 90 degrees. Where is the cosine negative square root of 3/2? So I start with, where is cosine square root of 3/2? And then you end up with pi/6 or 30 degrees. But this negative puts us in quadrant 2. So our answer is going to be 5 pi/6 or 150 degrees. Where is the cosine 2.5? 2.5 is outside our domain, doesn't exist. And inverse cosine of negative 1/2. So I look at where is the cosine 1/2? Cosine of 1/2, cosine is 1/2 at 60 degrees, but it's negative, so that puts us in quadrant 2. So it's going to be 2 pi thirds, or 120 degrees. And then we'll do a couple of tangent problems. Same idea. Where is the tangent? The square root of 3 and square root of 3 over 1. So we're in positive, we're in quadrant 1, so it's going to be at pi thirds, or 60 degrees. Now again, tangent is back to quadrants 1 and 4. So if it's negative, you just get to slap a negative in front of it. Where is the tangent 0? At 0. Where is tangent negative square root of 3 over 3? So I look at where is the tangent, the square root of 3 over 3? In quadrant 1, that would be at 30 degrees, or pi sixths, but it's negative, so this is going to be a negative pi sixths, or a negative 30 degrees. And inverse tangent of negative 1. Where is the tangent 1? Pi fourths, or 45 degrees. So it's negative, which puts us down in quadrant 4. So you are at a negative pi fourths, or a negative 45 degrees. Hope you guys have been practicing these.